Welcome to the Five Tool Show. Tonight we have a wrestling card king, Rob England, and we're going to talk about, you guessed it, wrestling cards. Let's do it. So I guess the first thing that we usually ask people or anybody is like, what was your introduction into trading cards? Was it wrestling or was there something else first?
No, I'm just like most people as far as baseball cards. I had came from a little hometown of 1,000 people, and we were fortunate enough to have two major leaguers and from our little town, and their parents lived in our town, and it just kind of got me really hooked as far as collecting goes. Dane and Garth Orge from Blue Lake, California, our grocery store displayed their cards, which is like a lot of 82, 83 type era. And just going into that grocery store, of course, getting candy and snacks and digging up some change for a pack of cards definitely got me hooked.
Yeah. And I saw you, did you post a baseball card? You posted a baseball card recently, right?
Yeah, and so that's my hometown hero, and really what got me really into sports. And so I was pretty young at the time, and the Cardinals were in the World Series, and he played for the Cardinals, and he went 9 for 17 and hit 529. And so it was just a really exciting time for our town. And after the Cardinals won Game 7, he came to City Hall, and my parents took me there, and he signed a baseball for me, and I was just really hooked, and that's why I'm a Cardinal fan today. And his brother also lived in town, and I remember trick-or-treating his house and watching him play in the majors as well.
Rob, what about your introduction to wrestling? Were you a huge fan? Did you get in when you were really young, or was something it came across when when you were older?
I would say when I was older a little bit. Basically where I lived, I only had 2 channels. And so the only thing that I got was the NBC main event. And so the Hulk and Andre, of course, I'm just really captivated by Andre the Giant as the world was, and just his sheer size and just it being unbelievable. And so I never really considered, collecting wrestling cards, I would say, until I signed up for eBay. And that was in 1999. And once I discovered eBay, it just led me down to this rabbit hole that I feel is going to be a lifelong journey in collecting, because it's just been amazing as far as just figuring out what's out there. And right now, I would say, in the last decade, the Japanese market for a lot of pro wrestling cards has been really captivating for me.
Funny thing, Rob, about you saying down the rabbit hole is I kind of got down that rabbit hole in the last year, and I kind of brought Joe in on the wrestling side of it. And, because like we talked about in previous shows, it brings you back to your childhood, right? So, to get these cards now as an adult and as an older dude, you still feel like a kid again buying these cards. So that's what the cool thing is. I think the rabbit hole of wrestling is endless because there's so many things we don't know, and thanks to guys like Tony and David and you guys that just have the knowledge that guys like me and Joe are looking for. So, I just feel like wrestling hasn't even touched its surface yet in terms of the hobby.
It really hasn't, I don't feel, but, guys with Gary Vee, when he puts out a tweet, and, Jeremy Padower has definitely brought some highlights to the wrestling market. And just in general, the market's really changed, I would say, in the last 18 months, not necessarily just due to COVID, but I've always been attracted to the term GOATs, or the greatest of all times in their genre or their sport, whether it be tennis or boxing or anything like that. And for the longest time, those markets were just absolutely cheap. And that's not the case anymore. Now everyone's going for, the greatest and whatever they're good at, right? And even pop culture too.
Wrestling cards in particular, do you think that it's low pop? A lot of the cards are low pop because there aren't as many wrestling card collectors, or that wrestling card collectors are just more like guys that put stuff in binders? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So for the longest time, wrestling cards were cheap. And I think the wrestling card collectors themselves really weren't in tune with what grading can do for their collection. And so I would say the phenomenon of, as far as wrestling collectors submitting their cards for grading, has really just taken off, especially maybe in the last 5 years, something like that. So it's a pretty immature market to some degree, but now it's becoming part of the mainstream. I know for many times and many years that David Peck and I would post on the Collectors Universe forums, the PSA boards, and we had post about our wrestling cards, and we took a lot of flack as far as why we were collecting them, why we thought they were cool, and others didn't see it. And both of us really didn't understand it, just because, you know, for us, it's like, we're all collectors here. And so I don't know why you're judging what we're collecting, but that seemed to be the way it was. And it's really changed now as far as other just general collectors getting cards like Junkyard Dog and maybe some of the, I would say, minor stars, you know, and not just the big names of Hulk and Rock and Andre, Ric Flair, etc.
Yeah.
Rob, was there one guy that you, even if he wasn't the biggest star as a wrestling fan, that just made you either want to buy his card or root for him when you watched? Was there one wrestling guy that always stood out for you?
Well, he's a big star,
Okay.
but to me, I've always just been intrigued by Andre the Giant.
Okay.
And that's someone, when I just would see a card that I never had, that I just felt like I had to bid on it and try to win it, put it in my collection. And then I tried to get a registry going. And then, you know, they continue to pump out Andre cards, even though he died in 1993. And then I thought it was just, you know, maybe I shouldn't go into this master, you know, become a super collector of Andre. So I kind of stopped. And then I said, well, you know, just when he's living. And I sold some of those off because I didn't think some of them were going to be worth anything. And I just kind of gave up. And now just even like a lot of his 1990 classics, we're bringing in some pretty strong money, which kind of blew me away because I always consider those to be common cards. And at one time, even on PSA 10, they're $20 cards. And I saw some of them go for 600 here recently.
Like I wasn't really buying wrestling cards, say like 2 years ago, but I would see stuff here and there, and not as, you know, far back as you're going, but stuff definitely wasn't as expensive. Now it's just pretty expensive for everything. Anything that's like a PSA 9, you know, 87 O-Pee-Chee, or, you know, even 91 classic and all that stuff. It's like really expensive now. And low pop too, you know, really low
Yeah,
pop.
it definitely is. And one of the things as far as for collecting now is that you see the lower grades get a lot more respect as well. Because before, if we submitted cards, and I say we, me and David Peck mostly, as far as submitting wrestling cards, if we got an 8, we weren't very happy. Like that 8 went to kind of like the pile of junk. And now, you know, those are considered to be, you know, a fair card now.
I mean, I just bought last night, I just came across a Hogan Topps 85 rookie, a 7, PSA 7 for 150. And you know what? I thought that was a hell of a deal, but it's still a PSA 7. But in today's time, it's like, who would think a PSA 7 would even go for 150, 160? If you look on eBay, some are 180, 190, 200, you know? So it's unbelievable. The low
Yeah,
pop,
times have
low
changed for sure. And
Yeah.
then of course, slabs are just gonna get expensive until PSA could have some more reasonable grading fees as far as for bulk.
Hey, back to Andre for a minute. I saw one of his, I don't know if it's his rookie, but someone was selling it. I meant to ask you about, it's like, was it in a magazine or something? He was like Romanoff, or there was like some older card that like came out of a magazine. It wasn't the Japan one. It was like from somewhere else.
No, that is a Japan one,
It
and I
is?
actually
Okay.
have it here. this is one of the cards I got to discuss with you. And
I'm
I
happy I
actually
brought it up.
discovered this out of a Gong magazine, and SGC had never graded them before, and no other company that I know of has ever graded them. But I worked with SGC and they did it for me. And so I'll show you what this is.
That's
Wow.
it.
There's that card's on eBay
Monster-
for 10 grand right now. Not a PSA of that. I think it's 7. It's for 10 grand on eBay right now.
So
I have it in my-
that was an authentic that someone put up for 10 grand. There's a 3.5 at Golden Auction that has a couple weeks left. And it has a bid at
Oh,
over
was it
1,000.
Wow. I thought it was a
And
PSA
so
7.
this 5 is actually a top pop right now. And then it's paper, and so it's prone to bending, and it has a lot of staining as far as being in the magazine. So even though it's a 5, this one's going to be pretty tough to top in reality.
And what year was that, Rob?
This is 1972.
72. That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
72. That's unreal. Wow.
That's
That must have been graded. I mean, that's an old SGC tab, right? So that was graded. Who knows when? I wonder, do you know when that was graded?
Gosh, I'd have to look. I don't
Yeah.
grade with the SGC too often.
That's amazing card, man.
Maybe 4 or 5 years ago, something like that. And then another hand cut Andre, and I was pretty much a machine as far as buying the 1973 annuals. I think I've cut up about 16, 17 magazines, something like that. But then I have this 1973 from the US, and that's a PSA 10.
That is unreal, man. Wow.
So that's a pop 4. My buddy Greg Weiss has one. Jeremy Padower has another one. I have this one. I don't know where the 4th one is.
And you cut that one?
I did not cut this
Oh.
one. I just got a bunch of 9s, but I have
Got
most of the set in PSA 10. I think I have 28 out of the 36 in the set in PSA 10, something like that. So I'm pretty dominant in that one.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Wow.
And top pop for all those cards, I think, although there might have been a Dory Funk Jr. that messed up my perfect rating as far as having all the top pop. So I'll have to sleuth that out somewhere.
That card's just amazing. Wow.
But if you wanted to get, like, some people had issue as far as with paper cards, right? Even though on the cover of the magazine it says cut out these and collect them and trade them with your friends, but you know, and I kind of felt that way for a while too, but they're totally meant to be collected. And once they go into a slab, I think it just changes everything. And there's a biography on the back as well, talking about his career. So it really is
Iconic, man.
it's a collectible for sure.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Look at
And
that
it's
picture.
from the USA as well.
And Rob, that one, being that it's now, is that like a standard card size? The one, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah. So our collectors, I mean, in baseball cards, I mean, as you probably know, people tend to go for like the standard card size, even if there's a card, even of a DiMaggio or whoever before, that's like a big one, So is that one more sought or valuable? The smaller?
I would say that the smaller card from 1973 so far is more sought after than the bigger one, as you're saying.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And Rob,
And it
going
could be
back,
difference in country too, as far as being a USA release versus Japan. This one actually has like another card on the back, so it's
shoot,
not quite as attractive as having a biography on the other
Yep.
side. So I get it.
that
That's,
makes sense.
that's interesting. Yeah.
Rob, I was asking you offline on Twitter some questions about these cards. And I know you told me that, these are cut, whoever I got these from cut these, pretty well, pretty nice, sharp. But the question I had for you was, for them to be graded, I only see the round ones, and having them like this is basically, you're not able to grade them. Like what you said, what did you tell me that it would only be, they would only grade it authentic?
That's what PSA told me
Okay.
many years ago when I first got those graded. I probably graded the first 16 Hulk Hogan's. There's 4 different Hulks in that set. And when they told me that I had to round the corners, my heart dropped a little bit because I'm pretty good at hand cutting cards. I've got lots of 10s. I've invested in a pretty good cutter that helps me out. But when they said I had to round those corners, I was just thinking, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? And so I'm not perfect by any means. And there's probably better ways to do it. But I just got some fingernail clippers and tried to round it as best I could.
Wow.
I figured I had my whole life cutting my own fingernails. Might as well try it on these little cards. So I've got a couple of Hulk Hogan 9s doing it that way, an 8. And I got some decent grades, 8s and 9s on some of the others from the set as well. Bruiser Brody, Stan Hansen, a lot of those guys.
I mean, it's worth a shot. I would hate to mess up these Tiger Mask ones, but maybe I'll do it on Adrian Adonis.
Yeah.
Practice,
There's
right?
probably a better way. So sometimes I'm pretty crude in my methodologies.
It's tough, man. I did send an email to PSA. They didn't respond yet, but maybe years later reaching out, it was worth a shot. I'd like to just hear what they say too upon that.
Yeah. I have not seen any with the straight edges in a PSA holder. They told me since the color basically rounded and it's a hand cut card that you needed to follow that.
Makes sense.
That's awesome. That's really cool to know. Yeah, like so we were thinking about like rookie cards with wrestling, and obviously there's not a formula like there is in MLB. What do you think about like the whole rookie card thing in wrestling? Is it the first card? Like, what's the is it the Jericho card where he was, I forget the name, Corazon d'Amor? Is that his first card?
Corazon de Leon.
De Leon, yeah. Part of the line.
93.
Right.
And so it's a Topps card released in Mexico. So I think the market should dictate that one as a rookie for
That's
sure.
awesome. It's really
But
cool.
as far as the whole wrestling card, rookie card definition, I think for wrestling cards, I think you just have to throw that out the window. And with sports, if you're a performer, you're not going to go too long before you get a trading card released of you in a major set. But that's just not the case with wrestling. And the example that I reference many times is Andre the Giant. How can you have maybe 30 cards or so before you get your quote rookie card from Topps in 1987 to 6 years before he died? And here you have that 72 Monster Rusimov, you had that 1973 Wrestling Annual, you had these little pack pulled cards. This is another Japanese one, Yamakatsu. It's a PSA 9. So that's a top pop.
Yeah.
So it's pretty awesome. Little body slam card.
Is that like they're called Menko cards? Doesn't he have a few?
No, this isn't a Menko. This is just a Yamakatsu, but
Okay.
he did have some Menkos as well from 1974.
Yeah.
And the card companies, well, PSA, hasn't really seen a complete checklist. So they haven't recognized the Andre Menkos as of yet. But
Wow.
here's this other Yamakatsu, the profile shot. And I would say that this one gets a little bit more love than the body slam just due to the nature of the shot.
Yep.
And that's a PSA 9 as well.
Amazing.
And that's a top pop as well.
Andre the Giant, I mean, I think everybody in the world knows who Andre the Giant is. Me and Joe were talking about, this a few months back about how, an average person may not know who a huge major league player, top 5 major leaguer is anymore. But you go anywhere around the planet and they know who Mean Gene is. They know who Andre the Giant is. Even little kids now, they know who Andre the Giant is. There are kids that I know who are like 17, I mean, kids, 17-year-old kids who are into wrestling and they know Andre the Giant, you know? So that is that level of fame, and what a great, just like for me, watching Andre the Giant as a kid, like it wasn't just like, yeah, he's this big guy. It's like, dude, he was a ridiculous athlete. Like that guy was a seriously fast moving big guy. It was like amazing to watch him work. So Andre the Giant, what a legend. Truly the good, like you got to say he's like the goat of wrestling kind of in a way. I mean, you know, eighth wonder of the world, you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
That title says it all, right?
And he didn't need a title just
I
because
know.
he was his own draw.
Without a doubt. I mean, I don't have many Andre cards, but I got this a while back. And what stuck to me about this card, I mean, you can't have a cooler back of a card than this. I mean,
Yeah.
Andre just chilling on a phone, like in his little chair. I mean, it's just like stuff like that. For me, I know the card's not worth a lot of money, but like that's just Andre in a nutshell right there, right?
Yeah, I've graded that card a few times. I like it. And I like the vest. And
Right, with the vest, yeah. It's Japan, Japan makes some really cool cards, man. I love the way they do it. And all these years I didn't know that so many of our stars from here have cards from there. I mean, I didn't know that. Like me and Joe, I mean, I would say in the last year, just realizing how many, like as a kid, you just thought Hogan's rookie was 85 tops. I mean, I didn't know he had cards from 82 and all these until the last year. And it's unbelievable, man. It never ends though. You find something new out every day.
it really is. And there's another Hulk Hogan 1981, and PSA hasn't recognized it. And I got him to sign it back in
Wow.
April. And the cape is, the multicolored cape is just
It's amazing.
phenomenal.
That is unreal. What is that
So-
from, Rob?
It's 1981 Marusho. And what's neat about this card is if you see like that red lettering on the back, that was basically an insert for a prize where you could redeem the card. And so this is the only one that I've seen with a winner stamp on it of a Hulk Hogan rookie. So I love the variations, in essence, like some of the one, not necessarily, I know that they made more than one winner stamp, but in essence, short printed of that issue.
That is so cool, man. Wow. Don't come across. Have you seen any other one of those anywhere?
I've seen some other winner stamps, just not on Hulk.
Not Hogan.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah.
That's
That's an amazing card. And when you say that PSA doesn't recognize it, is it because it's not on like wrestlingtradingcards.com, like the website, or there's not a checklist available, or?
There's just not a complete checklist of it. Unfortunately, it's not numbered. And so there's a ton of tiger masks in that set. So it's a little bit unusual that it was so filled with one wrestler. So the checklist is just undetermined at this time. There's a good guess, but for the major grading companies, they want to have that provenance as far as knowing everything about the set. One of the cards that I'm really working on PSA, and it's been a long time and probably at this point about 5 months, but I actually have this Wrestling All-Star of Hulk.
Wow.
What I thought was really cool, and it's signed. And of course you see these, and it's, I'm sure, what many consider to be the #1 wrestling card out there, period. But what's neat about this is that it's a blank back.
Oh,
Wow.
And so this is the only blank back that I've seen of Hulk from the 82 All-Stars.
And you have an auto. So PSA is saying that they're not recognizing the card.
They're checking on this one. I've been working with them about 5 months. I have no idea why it's taken 5 months with them. At this point, I thought I could get an answer in a week or two, but here we are, and they haven't said no, they haven't said yes, and so we'll see what happens.
that's wild. It's weird. Sometimes I collect Frank Sinatra cards, right? So I'm always searching, and there's so many cards on that are not in PSA that are in SGC. And it's weird where like maybe people just graded that year of cards, and then they'll have a whole set, like say from 53 or something, that's not even in PSA. And I feel like with wrestling, I've looked a little bit with that too. There's that set with Tiger Mask, and there's all these Tiger Masks, but if you go to PSA, I didn't see any of them in there.
Yeah, and so David Peck, he actually had this Andre blank back, and he has it in the SGC holder, and he got a PSA 5 on his blank back.
Oh, shoot.
Wow.
But of course, the problem now for me is that I had Hulk sign it. And so SGC doesn't do autograph authentication anymore. So
Right.
I kind of went all in as far as with PSA, which I'm kind of a PSA honk anyway.
Yeah.
And if I had to, maybe Beckett could do it, authenticate it, and people could just look at the back. But I definitely want a card company to recognize the blank back and the autograph.
So Rob, I was checking your page. You got a big card right now in auction, huh?
Oh, it's not mine. Which one here?
Not in your store, in your eBay store.
Okay, which you talking about?
That rock card, I was looking at it, and then I was looking at the time, and I said, wow, there's only about an hour left on this half hour.
Oh, I was just highlighting that auction. It's not my card.
It's not? Okay.
I just like to follow the market trends. I do have a PSA 8 with the ink that's about the same quality. So I was really curious to see where that ends up at. I also have a couple PSA 7s of the Surted Rock from 1998. And so it's really cool to see that card move, because a few years ago, I would say that was one of the most expensive wrestling cards out there.
Mhm.
And then everything else kind of exploded around it. And now it's finally on the move and on an upward trajectory. So
Yeah, it's at 4,500 right now.
how much time's left?
27 minutes.
All right, we'll see where it ends. But what I feel about that card is, if you think about it, is Dwayne Johnson going to sign for any of these card companies? Not likely, unless he's cutting them a huge favor. He doesn't need whatever they compensate him for. And so just to have asserted the Rock autograph, it's tough.
It's a cool card too. And that's a cheap set too. Like you could buy those cards for $20 for a whole box, so to see it go for that price, but just rocks.
Not anymore. Those boxes
Really?
are pricey, and I think a lot of people are trying to get the autos, but some people have said that they pulled them from packs, but a lot of them are redemption cards.
Oh, okay.
So you might be wasting your money if you're buying some of those boxes at this point,
Yeah, right.
for sure.
Yeah, the expired redemption cards,
Oh,
it's crazy, like all these Albert Pujols rookies, that his first rookie card was a redemption auto. Like all the refractor autos were all redemptions, and like most people didn't do it. They were just like, who's this guy? Drafted late. Yeah. So it's crazy. What do you think about like the modern cards? Do you like the new cards? Do you like the stuff that's been put out by Topps and Panini in the last 10 years or whatever?
I think it's really great for the wrestling card community to have something that's active, but I will say that it's just not for me. And so I'm really a fan of vintage, the 80s stuff, my childhood stuff, or, some of my, I would say, college years type era of the Attitude Era, and then just kind of stop right around there. So my collection goes back to 1887. As far as Allen and Ginter's, I have all 7 cards in PSA 7 or higher, and 2 of them are 8s. And I collected all the pro wrestling cards that I could find from the 1920s, 1930s, 40s, 50s. There wasn't much in the 60s, 70s, all that. So some of the things that I like to go back on are just the 80s, and some of the series that I think are pretty underrated are the O-Pee-Chee Series 1. So the equivalent to the 85 Tops, but just out of Canada. and getting those first 21 cards and hopefully PSA 9 or 8. And then the 1986 Scanlens, which again are just a copy of the 85 tops or the O-Pee-Chee, but from 1986. And I don't know what the Australians did to their cards, but they're low grade, they're rough. And I just want to get, the Andres slabbed up, some of the Hogans, and the first 21 cards that from the 85 tops as well. So that's more of my lane. And one of probably the most impressive set that I have in my collection is that I have a 1954 Parkhurst set, and that was out of Canada. And it's a 75 card set, and I have 71 out of the 75 in top pop.
Yeah, I mean, anything from 50s is like 7 is like an amazing grade. I think any sport, that's a crazy grade from the 50s, Wow.
The paper is really low quality, and I think whatever they did to cut the cards, and then there's so much staining on them as far as wax stains. There's only 4 cards in a pack, and so many of them are going to have some sort of staining to them just to get in the package.
Have you ever ripped a pack of those?
No, and I was probably 15 years into collecting the set before I ever saw a wrapper.
Oh,
Because at some point I was just wondering, did these really come in a pack or not?
yeah.
Because it seemed like there'd be some evidence somewhere.
Yeah, that's the whole mystery of the wrestling, like trying to say, hey, does somebody have a box of these stash or a few packs where you could just see even what imagine you're collecting a set, you don't even have any idea what the wrapper or what anything look like. That's what makes it so intriguing, where there's always something to find with these cards. It's unreal.
And that's the thing with wrestling. And that's what's really beautiful about it, is that it had low production runs, period. It's a really small market. I'm sure they didn't sell a bunch. And so I have no idea what the production runs are now. I'm sure they're much higher. But if you go back in history, unless it was in a multi-sport set, they weren't cranking out a bunch of these wrestling cards.
What was the big hit of that set?
As far as the 1954 Parkhurst,
Yeah.
there's a Gorgeous George rookie in there where he's flying through the air. There's a card of Lou Thez.
Yeah, that Luthez is
well.
crazy. I sent you that card. It was in my favorites. It's a great looking card. That's amazing.
I had him sign that like 20 years ago, and I got rid of it, and I'm kicking myself. I don't know what I was thinking.
Wow.
But I also have like a signed Vern Gagne from that set at Bobo Brazil. I actually used to buy up all the sets that they would come up on eBay and take the best ones and just continuously upgrade. And I looked at the back of Bobo's card and I was just shocked. I was like, no way. He signed this card for somebody. And I was familiar with his autograph. I sent it in to PSA DNA. They slabbed it up. It was incredible. It was just in a base set that I picked up.
Look at that. Just finding an auto on the back of a card, right?
Yeah, and Bobo's 1982 All-Stars, which of course that's the most popular wrestling set that exists, but his autograph out of that 82 All-Stars is sold for $1,000 to $1,500. And so, maybe people wouldn't see it that way for a Parkhurst, but it's a special piece.
Great name, right? Bobo Brazil. It's a great name.
And just to be a African-American wrestler in the 50s, it must have been pretty tough sledding for him.
That is true.
Yeah, that's a great set. It's a really nice set. That's a great point about Bobo Brazil. What are there cards from the 90s that you like? Or is it no, right?
Oh, 90s, obviously Stone Cold. How can you not go after Stone Cold, whether it be the card from Argentina, the Chromie, the magazine card. I never gave a lot of respect to the Cardinal, but that took off, although it's settled back down a little bit now. Even the main event from 1995, the WCW people have been after that one in 8, 9, 10 type grade. So I like those guys, and I really like The Rock because I just think his career has a lot left to unfold, and whether that's a presidency or if that's just more movies. And I think he's a guy that appeals to men, women. He does a lot of kids movies. So he's really Americana at this point. And again, with a NBC series, Young Rock season 2 is coming out this spring. And so I'm just a really big believer in his cards, and gonna try to get as many of those as I can, especially in 9s and 10s.
Now, what's Rock's true rookie? I mean, we're not going to go true, but what does the hobby say his rookie is?
All right, so he has the college football card, the perforated
Okay,
bumblebee from Miami.
The Hurricanes, yep.
So there's that one that's out there. The one that I think meets, definition of a rookie is his 1997 Panini sticker that was released overseas, and it's sticker number 113. So comes out of a set, comes out of packs, and those really took off over the last year. I actually sold that card in Golden Auctions
Oh, wow.
last April in a PSA 10. It was a pop 2 at the time, and it ended at $33,600.
That's
And after some of the other ones got graded and sold, it's settled down a
It
lot
did?
less than that.
Yeah.
So it was really good for me to sell that one. I still have one, and it's a pop 7 at this time. And I really think it's going to be hard for other 10s to appear.
Or do you see packs or any of those boxes ever around, or is that like just impossible?
No, there's definitely some of those boxes that are out there. What's
Okay.
really mysterious about it is that no one really knew about these until December of 2021.
Oh, what?
And so I don't know how a card or a sticker set from 97 could just not appear.
Yeah,
I think a lot of them were in a warehouse in Egypt that was abandoned, and everything just kind of blew up. And I think that's why I kind of got that crazy price, is that obviously they're the only ones on the pop report were the ones that I submitted. And then, more and more came out. And so the prices came down, but it's just very mysterious.
Rob, how did you come across that card? Did you just see it on eBay one day? Did you see it through a collector, or how did
I
that?
saw it on eBay, and I just about flipped out, and I'm like, how is it that The Rock, and he's there as Rocky Maivia from 1997. How is it that after searching daily on eBay for a couple decades that I've never, ever seen these? So I was sure to buy some boxes. Generally, when I submit to PSA, I just grade under value or under Collectors Club, which used to have a quick turnaround. I would never pay for Express, but I just thought that they were a special item. And at the time it was $75. I sent in, I think, 4 of them, and I got 2 10s and 2 9s.
Man.
So those were some of the best copies that I had. And I decided to go with Golden, and that, then it pretty much exploded as far as in that auction, and went for over $33,000.
Wow. Yeah, that's one thing with the auction, especially with Golden. I mean, card could be valued at, maybe 10, 15, all of a sudden it ends at 33 because just so many people in there that want it, that have the money. And, Golden takes it to the next level as well. So
yeah. So I know my limitations. I'm known in the wrestling card community, but as far as the buyers that come to Golden are in a completely different stratosphere than
exactly
the pool that I wade in.
Exactly.
And it brought it some marketability as well. So
totally. But I didn't know that card has just been popular from so That's unreal that it was 97 and all of a sudden it took that many years to even get noticed. That to me, see, Joe, you see what I'm saying? How crazy, like that would never happen in baseball or football or basketball. It's just,
when you hear these stories about, cards in Egypt or some other set that I think Tony was telling us some cards, I think they were in Egypt as well, or some other country in the Middle East that I forget what set it was, but it's just amazing how, with wrestling cards, like you hear these kind of stories. It's just really interesting.
So I think it was right around 2014 is when I discovered the Hulk Hogan Poppy card from Japan. And that came as the header card on a figure from 1981. And so once I discovered it, I was looking all over for it. I finally located the figure from a guy in Europe, and I paid and he shipped it. And I did what figure collectors despise. I popped it open because I'm a card collector, and I'm like, I'm going to get PSA to recognize this set, and did that and got a PSA 7 on that one. And even after all this time, as far as for the first true trading card of Hulk Hogan out there, there's been less than 10 of them graded by PSA. And I have 4 of them. So I have 2/8s, I have a PSA DNA 5, and I have a authentic with a Jim auto on it. So I just love that card because it's a awesome combination of figure collectors, card collectors. We know that there's 17 cards in the set. It has a biography on the back. And to me, that's truly just a monster card. And it's known as I would say a holy grail in the wrestling card community today.
what do you think that 8 would go for in today's market? I mean, as a rough estimate.
You know what? I really don't know.
There's nothing, yeah,
I'm
there's
not
nothing
gonna
to go
find
off.
out because I'm gonna keep my 2/8. Of course, I've been
Okay.
someone that if the price is right, I'll flip something.
Yeah.
But that card is just so hard to find that if you're looking for a PSA 2, you just can't find one on eBay. It just doesn't happen.
And you got 2/8.
I have 2/8 and 2 signed.
That's unreal.
The coolest part is I had a work conference in Orlando, and I extended my stay and went out to the beach shop, and I talked to Ron, the guy that runs the shop for Hulk, and tried to get Hulk down there to sign all my cards that I brought. And he was out running errands with his wife, and so he didn't make it down there. And so I had a decision to make whether I leave, I think about 16 cards there, a couple poppies. And I just said, you know what? I just got to go for it. I just got to leave all this stuff there and cross my fingers or whatever. I, paid them a few hundred auto or whatever, and made it happen and got the cards in the next week. But what was really interesting is looking at Hulk's Facebook after he signed those poppies. There was a video of him going to his storage unit saying that he's going to find basically his rarest or a rare card, and he's looking for his poppies, which is really awesome because that was a direct result from my visit to his beach shop.
He saw that stuff and he got nostalgic.
I don't think he found one.
No,
I really don't.
Doubt it.
And he's someone, and the beach shop owner are very aware of his memorabilia as far as looking on eBay, seeing what the prices are. The prices for his autograph continue to go up. I think someone said that they were quoted for his All-Star that he wanted $400 to sign his All-Star, just because he sees that people are asking, $7,500 or or whatnot, and he wants a little piece of that too. So,
hey, listen, if I had it and I knew my car was in good condition, I'd be more than happy to pay him $400 for the
I
auto.
still think it's a deal with the value added.
Exactly.
It really is, and that's something that I've done as far as some of my Hulks, since I'm wearing his shirt. is I got his rookie. That's a PSA 8.
It's insane.
So a PSA 8, I think is, to me, I think that's at least a $12,000 card in raw form, I think. This isn't not much, but it's just a 4 that I collected. This one, the cool thing about this card is that he signed this in 1985. So this might be one of his first
What?
times that he signed his All-Star. There's a
Yeah.
collector out of Maryland that could cite the show where he signed this card. I think it was September of 85. Of course, this one's pretty cool. Terry Bollea, his
That is
name at the
cool.
top and Hulk at the bottom. And then another little twist on his card, Hulkster at the top and Hulk Hogan at the bottom.
Man,
That's incredible. That's amazing. Absolutely
It is.
amazing. Absolutely
it
amazing.
really is. This is a
So he
living
just,
legend.
like, when you left him, he just signed him and he just kind of went crazy. He was signing different ways on the cards.
Oh, I didn't leave all those All-Stars.
Oh,
So
wow.
just to make sure that the stories don't mesh. But I was just showing some of these All-Stars here and some of just the collection that I've had with him. And I don't know, I was thinking that I'd try to get to about 10, but I'm stalling out and prices are getting pretty high. I'm at, what, 6 of them right now. And I really don't want anything as far as, even the 4 is kind of questionable at this point, but.
Really like
So
that.
where's our Rock at right now?
Oh,
Wow.
the Rock. Let's refresh it. Let's see. We got 6 minutes. It's still at 45.50.
Gotcha. And that's a PSA 8.
Yep, 8.
Is it auto?
Yeah. Nice auto.
So
Chuck's
that's the only sorted Dwayne Johnson wrestling card.
It's the what?
It's the only sorted Dwayne Johnson wrestling card
Oh, wow.
that he's ever had. And that's back in 1998.
Yo, that's banana. See, look, something else I learned today. That's unreal. I didn't know that.
And there's no incentive for him to sign.
No, at this point,
It's a waste of time unless you
Yeah.
cut someone a favor.
that's what makes these cards. Yeah, I could see why it's going for this money anyway. It's probably going to jump up in the last 30 seconds. It'll go crazy.
I hope so. We've got 3 of them. So
Is there any card out there, Rob, that you're like, I don't know if I'll ever get it, but my eyes will always be on this card? Like, do you have one that's out there right now?
probably the one, my biggest screw up, I would say, is years ago, I bought the Wrestling All-Star set and probably paid about $60 for it. And the first time I even got involved as far as with PSA grading, I looked at the Hulk Hogan All-Star and I said, oh, this is a Hulk Hogan rookie. Like, it would be pretty smart for me to get this slabbed up. I got a PSA 9 on it. And of course, I only had $60 into the set. I put it up on eBay for $135. So like snagged it like that, right? Of course, this is going back to what,
Yeah.
2007 or something like that. And so the card's gone, right? And now that's a $40,000 card.
How many 9s are out there on that one?
David Peck will probably have the exact number.
Exact. What is it, over 10?
It's about 16, something
16?
like that,
Okay.
with
All
no
right.
10s. Actually, what happened when I sold that card is the guy cracked it out, got Hulk to sign it, re-slabbed it, and he got a 9 again.
Oh my goodness.
That's the craziest stuff. That could never happen to me. I would have did that. It would have came back a 6 or something like that. How do you take a chance of doing that? Like, that's crazy.
I don't
Yeah,
think
he actually put it up on
today.
eBay for $9,000 something dollars. And I was messaging him because I'm putting together a high grade autographed all-star set from 82A. And that's better than my 8. And I feel like the guy would have worked with me. And this is before the market exploded and all of that. And so I just felt like it was too much money at the time. And then I forget what it went for the first time. It might have went for right around $20,000. So he basically doubled his money after he didn't list it himself and went through Probstein. And then it got sold again and it went for over $36,000.
It's just a flip.
And so who knows what that card would bring today.
Yeah, right now, if that was like in Golden's auction right now,
oh yeah, it would go bananas.
It would go, it might go 6 figures.
It could.
Good. I mean, you never know who's bidding. That's how I look at it. You never know who, if somebody has endless money and they want the card, it's not even about the money anymore.
It's a museum piece. It's a
Yeah.
Pop 1 auto Hogan rookie on the most iconic wrestling set.
People go, they consider that card, I guess, like a holy grail in wrestling. I know there's not one, but that's absolutely an amazing card and awesome.
I think it truly is. And one of the comparisons that I have is if we look at the decade of the 1980s, let's just say a PSA 9 grade. I haven't looked what the Jordan goes for in a PSA 9 these days. But, and I was saying this before these sales of these Hogans that went for 40,000, but I said, you know what? Hulk Hogan in PSA 9 would outsell any sports card in PSA 9 from the whole 80s, the whole decade. What other card is there?
And I feel like it will be even more. I'm telling you, the wrestling is just going to go further and further because a lot of these cards about these iconic stars you can't buy them. So people going to wrestling, it's just going to boost the numbers up and up more and more.
Yeah, I believe it. These guys are Americana. These are our childhood. And, you know, you could go on YouTube and still watch their matches. You know, they just captivate people's imaginations.
40. Yep. So it's sold for 45.50.
No higher, huh?
No one put a bid in for the last 2 hours. That's pretty crazy.
For the last couple days, actually.
Oh, it was 45.50 for a while?
It was,
Okay.
yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's solid for an 8. And they have a lot of chipping on the back. And so it's going to be really hard to get a 9 or a 10. There is a 10 that's out there. There are some 9s. But when wrestling cards, I would say raw cards really weren't worth that much. That Rock auto was, in essence, like $150, $200 card when a lot of the other cards were, you know, $1, $5, $10 kind of thing.
Rob, to finish up, what advice would you give to new people coming into collecting cards, you know, wrestling cards or any cards?
Well, right now, of course, there's a big investment quality in cards as far as for some of the prices realized. But what I would say is collect what you love. And, you know, if you really love it, you're going to hold on to it. And I've really benefited as far as just having so many of my wrestling cards and slabs. One is the price of the slabs obviously are much higher now, just with what the grading companies charge. But even if they weren't worth what they are today, I just really love this stuff. And so they don't have to be slab, they could be raw, but just find what you really like. And to me, stick in that lane. If you want to adventure and prospect a little bit, you know, just have that be a fraction of what you put into your collection and just stick to what you truly love and you'll always win.
Rob, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really grateful for you to come on and talk to us. We really appreciate it and, you know, enjoy your knowledge and insight about, you know, the cards. Thank you.
Yeah. I appreciate being on here, talking with you guys, and always like these invites that come to me and try to get to as many of them as I can.